Hello, YouTube. This is Isabel. Welcome to my channel. For those of you who are new, this is the Q&A. I'm going to try to do these on a regular basis because I realize it has its value. I get a lot of comments under videos regularly, but I can't answer manually each one of them. It takes a long time. So what I do is I compile all the comments and then I do a live version, which is great because then you can replay. You can also interact during the live session to get more information. So again, welcome. For those of you who are just joining in right now, I hope everything is going well for you. Here it's very cold on this side of the world, so that's why I'm wearing a very nice sweater here. So let's get started with the first comment. I have a lot of them, so this live might be a bit longer than usual. I do have a lot of comments. So I'll start with Shane. So I'm Shane, resident in Malaysia, would like to move to Switzerland around the French-speaking area with my family. Been looking out for jobs around this area as well and have submitted for a few jobs. I'm learning French, A1 certification soon. My career has been in IT, currently in IT process manager, in my native country. I've seen many of your videos on YouTube. I would like some guidance on your end to successfully land a job in Geneva, as my goal is to move there to this beautiful country. Kindly let me know what do I need from my end. So that's the first comment. So as I've been saying in this channel, it's very complicated for non-EU residents, non-EU passports to move to Switzerland at the moment. There's definitely priority for EU passports. It's easier to get a job offer. And by the way, the only way you can move to Switzerland is if you have a job offer. If you don't have a job offer, you can't move. The only thing is to for non-EU to get a job via the United Nations or the international organizations, it's called. So you have a few. I would say probably you have about 10 from the top of my head, maybe, where you can be hired with no worries about passport. It would be something like all the United Nations, World Economic Forum, there's Global Fund, Gavi Alliance, all those, you can research them and you can find them in different websites. So they would recruit globally because they're not under the Swiss law. They have what is called immunities and privileges, so they can hire from everywhere. They're not under the Swiss law, so they're a little bit like a bubble by itself. It's like when you're traveling and you have no when you're in the air, for example, you're not, that's why it's called the duty free, because you're not part of any country law. It's the same thing with international organizations. They're completely aside. So as a non-EU, that's really your way to get into Switzerland, is to try to find a job with the UN or something like that. You have to see if your job is applicable. So when I see IT, I think maybe you can find something in IT for an international organization like the UN. Sometimes they recruit IT coordinators, IT technicians, IT project managers. So I would look at unjobs.org, and that's where you can find the openings and apply from anywhere in the world. But that's really your only hope, because private sector won't recruit someone from Malaysia or from China or wherever to work for their company, because they have to do a work permit for you. And they're not going to get the approval from the authorities for a IT job. Now, if you're the head of a company and you're merging with another company in Switzerland, a multi-million-dollar deal, then there's going to be ways for you to get a work permit. But if you're just, let's call it a worker who's looking for a job opportunity in Switzerland, nobody's going to pay a Swiss legal firm to build a file or why you're the best candidate for the job. So again, I want to make that clear for all non-EU people watching this video. Just target international organizations. It makes your life much easier. You don't have to deal with rejection. And still, that's not a guarantee, but at least you have your target market defined for you. So again, unjobs.org or World Economic Forum. You have to see if your type of work can be transferable, but that's it, basically. That's what you can find. So I think I answered the question there for Shane. Apply for international organizations That's your only way to come to Switzerland with your family. Second comment from Shatish. I've been applying for jobs in the last 3 months. I'm a non-EU citizen requiring sponsorship to work in EU or Switzerland. I know basic German. I'm not sure if my resume is the problem or previous issues. Need info about the Swiss market. Is a good time to apply for jobs. So here it's the same thing, non-EU, boom. Don't even think about it. International organization only. You're not going to get any traction from the private sector. They're not even going to open your file. Again, for I'm not sure what the job is, but I assume it's also a very standard type of role. So they're not going to pay for a legal firm to sustain a work permit for you. So again, don't even think about it. Try to see if you have skills that can be applied to international organizations and just apply there. So it's not your resume the problem. I think for all non-EU, again, watching, don't worry about how to shape your resume or what languages you need to speak. You are not going to be interesting for private sector as a non-EU. So that's just it. It's too much complication, too much hassle to get you a work permit. So don't even waste your time making all these applications. Just focus on international organizations. And again, check and see if you need some training, maybe to be a good candidate. They will also ask for languages and specific skills, so you might need to upgrade yourself as well on that end, but that's it. That's where you have traction. Next question from Firmrank. He's asking, hello, Isabel, could you please tell me what other expenses might accrue to start a small business besides the rent of the space, such as a small shop or a small restaurant, how to start, where to go first, or better to ask for a specialized lawyer on it? So my first answer to that is, how much money do you have? Because if you're considering this kind of project in Switzerland, you need a lot of money. You're talking about, small shop, rental, everything. To start a business in Switzerland, you need to have at least, I would say, and that's really on the very conservative end, 50,000 Swiss francs. So if you don't have that in the bank, you're not going to get the fact of selling your business and all that. So that's going to be the minimum. And that's the money you need to set aside to start an actual business. Now, that's money you need to keep in the bank for your business. But then you need to pay your rent for sustaining yourself. You need to pay for food, clothing, gas, if you have a car, all these things, and all the taxes and all the things you need to pay. Just, I call that cost of living. So I would say if you're serious about doing anything in Switzerland, you need to come again with substantial amount of income already. And then again, you're not mentioning what is your passport, but if you're not EU, again, chances are now they've become very stringent on getting a work permit. So again, if you're not coming with a multi-million-dollar business idea, probably they're not going to get you a work permit based on starting a business. So my recommendation for business owners is start your business where it's easy for you to start it. And now with the virtual world, especially if it's a virtual business, it's easy. Start something where you can grow and start making some income. And then when you want to expand and maybe consider Switzerland, then you already have some background tracking if you need to ask for a work permit, some kind of authorizations and all that. You have a tracking record. But if you come as an unknown entity to Switzerland and say, I want to start a business, people will look at you like, why would I give you a work permit and all these things? So you're going to be questioned. And again, I'm looking at this, a small shop and a restaurant in times of pandemic doesn't seem like it would have a lot of future. Restaurants right now are closed. Shops are doing very, very badly right now everywhere. Actually, I would focus more on virtual businesses at the moment, if you're asking me about ideas. So, it's a lot of investment first end to start a restaurant or to start a business. For the time when you're going to actually get your return on investment is not going to be ideal. And right now it's just not the ideal for this. So I would say, if you really want to come to Switzerland, again, think about a business where there's a lot of growth right now. Think about virtual businesses. And if you start doing very well, then consider expanding to Switzerland. So that's for advice for FinRank. Next person, Ivan from Bulgaria, is saying, I want to move to Switzerland and look for a job. I speak English and German. I don't have a lot of details. Again, it depends on what you do as a living. Are you more in the IT? Tech is really big. Pharma, are you in a field that's in high demand? If you speak languages and you're in a field that's high demand, then of course you have your chances. But if you're in a field where there's tons of people like project managers and all these jobs that are really generalist jobs, then it's going to be hard. But I would say prepare yourself, learn about the culture, what kind of profiles are in demand. Do you have the right applications that's going to be visible in the market? Do you have any network in Switzerland? So all these things basically prepare your file well. Next question is from Omar. Omar is saying, your videos are very inspiring. So thank you, Omar, if you're watching this video. Already know that you're getting lots of messages. I want to work in Switzerland. I think these types of questions you don't have in mind. I want to share mine. I'm studying both law and economics in Turkey, highest ranked institute in the country, and I want to apply for some master's programs in Switzerland in international and humanitarian law. My dream is working in global organizations such as UN, WHO. Because I'm a non-EU resident, it's impossible for me to have work permit in Switzerland? Or do you think that career in economics has a lot more opportunities in Switzerland rather than law? Okay, so there's a bit of confusion there, it seems, a little bit. I'm not sure if you're targeting, so you're talking about wanting to work in international organizations, but it seems like you're studying more law and economics. Economics would be more the private sector, it seems. Law could be applicable to international organizations for sure. So the first thing, and by the way, this advice is for everyone watching this, this live streaming. The first advice is to look at the market. And I know I repeat this all the time, but before, and again, write this down. I want you to take a piece of paper and a pen and write this down. Before I'm going to invest in time, money, and studies, I need to look at the job market. So it seems like people just go straight to, oh, it's the first institute in the country, let me sign up. And again, this institute might be great. I'm not downgrading it, and I'm all for education, as you know, but I'm all for education that has a future. And as you know, jobs are changing right now. We're going through a huge, huge transformation, and that's for everyone, whether you're working in private sector, international organization, it doesn't matter. We're going through tremendous change, and very few education programs are really going to train you for the jobs of the future. So you need to think about, okay, in international organizations right now, what are the positions advertised? So you're going to unjobs.org, you're going to, there's also other sites that you can look at, ReliefWeb. I will post them below because a few people are interested in international organization. So I will post the links below. There's a few development aid, all those, where you see, in Geneva, in Switzerland, what are the jobs that are in high demand? I know from my experience, anything with program funding, because it's the base. If you don't have funding for your program, you don't have a mission. You can't sustain yourself. So program funding, projects, doing program projects with programs. So think about, okay, what are these organizations needing? And then you see what you're missing. So you say, okay, I do need to maybe study some languages, or I do need to maybe do a specific short-term program to learn what program funding is all about, or to learn how to manage, to get, to work with public-private investments, for example, which is really big right now in international organization. So a master's in economics in a general kind of program is not going to teach you the public-private sector dynamics, but there's also programs in Switzerland that will be focused on that. So there's a few schools that really specifically work to train you for the international organizations. So that's the first thing, is really to look at the programs that are fit to the market. So I don't know how much your degree would help you for Switzerland. Again, if it's not targeted to Switzerland, what you want to do now before you apply anywhere is to check the jobs. And they will tell you in the education requirements what you need. And my recommendation, if you want to work for international organization, is to sign up for a program that's really linked to the international organization. And there's a few in Switzerland. I will post them below as well. I don't have them from the top of my head, but I will research that. There's one or two that are really training you to work for international organizations, and that are going to give you that market edge that you're looking for. But if you're just a general economics degree, then you're just another general economics degree in the market looking for a job. But if you studied in the right organizations in Switzerland, and you learn about this private-public partnership, and you learn about how to get buy-in from different stakeholders and program funding and project management in Switzerland, then you're going to be interesting for UN and all the bodies of the UN. So that's what you need to do. So the non-EU is not so much of an issue when you want to work in international organizations. You just need a budget to come and study and do something that's very focused in Switzerland, and then probably an international organization will work with you. I think your chances are bigger if you work for an international organization. I don't give the same advice to people who want to work for private sector, because even if you study in Switzerland, there's still no guarantee because of the work permit. So again, same message I gave you at the beginning of this live streaming: focus on international organizations only, because that's your way to get into Switzerland. That's your only way, in my view. Don't even worry about starting a business or trying to get in via the private sector. It's going to be a lot too much hassle for the return on investment, in my view. So it's more of a waste of time. Focus directly on international organization. Okay, so that was Omar. I finished the list here, and then I'll pick up the questions in the chat. We've got KKS Hub, who's asking, hi, this is Kesha from New Delhi, India. I want to get a job as an accountant. Please guide how to get it. Non-EU passport, very low chances to get a job as an accountant, because there's tons of accountants already in Geneva or in Switzerland in general. So the chances is close to none. So rather check the international organizations and see if there's accounting openings. You're going to be competing with the whole of the Swiss market there, because what's going to happen with the recession and the crisis is that a lot of private sector accountants who lost their jobs, for example, will probably try to find a job with a UN body of some kind. So you will have a lot of competition. Just be aware of that. So you need to be a very good accountant, a high stellar performer, multiple languages speaker to have even the slightest chance, I would say. But again, in my live streaming, I'm being very frank about the reality of things. So I don't like people to waste their time, basically. Next question from Mohib. Invaluable tips, thank you. What's your thoughts on the most important skills of 21st century: critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity? Could you tell some effective books, blogs to gain insights on these topics? So thanks for the question. It's a very good question. So in the 21st century, obviously, as things are automated, where you can really add value is in your capacity to make connections. So machine learning is only about doing things that are repetitive, that are predictable. So, I'm thinking, I just talked about the accountant. Accountant is probably a job that will be eliminated at some point, because, you will be able to just, fill in blanks and have a spreadsheet, and everything gets put together and automated and everything. So it's not going to be a skill of the 21st century. Now, if you're someone in finance who can make connections and understand the global environment of things, you say, okay, this is what's happening in the market, this is what's happening in the private sector. And by the way, I think these kinds of tools will help bring more value to companies about how to manage data and how to manage figures, and how to give maybe more insights so that companies can make better decisions. So what kind of tools could provide insights in a market, insights in I don't know, a specific target group. So a lot of companies want to know more about their customers. So if you have those skills of making connections between customers and market and everything, then you have a better skill. So the skill is really to, I would say, think, I know it seems very typical of what you hear everywhere, but think a little bit broader and expand your skills. Yesterday, we had a great, in the group, in the club, we had a great webinar with a specialist, training specialist, and she explained how building up your skills in different parts. So it's good to be a specialist in one thing, but also expand. So you would be the accountant plus plus or the project manager plus plus, meaning that you have your general set of skills that you know how to do well, but you also have other satellite type of skills. So you're a good communicator, you're good with leading a team, with, we talked also about leading a team virtually. That's a great skill to have in 2021. So if you're the accountant or the financier, finance person, but you also know how to engage with people, know how to lead globally, virtually, how to hire people and make good decisions on hiring your team. If you think a little bit broader, if you've taken courses maybe on project management, on coding, on all these things, then you become this finance plus plus person. So skill of 21st century is expand a little bit based on what the market needs as well, and you will become a better resource for an organization, and you can offer more to the table. So when you will have all the finance person, you know, they all bring the same degree from the same schools and the same experience, but you bring that you've done some courses on different topics. So you could make links inside the organization and you could bring more to your manager. So that's what we discussed yesterday in the club, which, by the way, the link is right below if you want to book a call and see if you want to join the club. We're doing a lot of interesting things in this club. We work on building skills, building potential, networking in Switzerland, and so forth. So that's something you want to know more of. The link is below. You can find it. It's the C-Suite Club. And just see if you want to book a call with me to discuss this more. But it's mainly focused for Switzerland, for people who are serious about expanding their skills in Switzerland. So that's what you said pretty much. Yes, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, all of the above. Well, you don't have to master all of them, but maybe pick one that you develop. Just like yesterday, we talked about developing your networking muscle by creating your own group and engaging with people and, you know, just being active. And the more you do of it, the more you become good at it. So the thing is, with those kinds of skills you mentioned, which are soft skills or relationship skills, you don't have a book that you can read, just like accounting, for example, where it's very straightforward. Okay, I need to put the figures here, you know, income, expenses, and it's very clear cut. And it's a skill that you learn, you know, very straightforward. Now, if you want to be a good communicator, a good collaborator, it becomes, you have to build a habit. You have to try and fail, try something different. It's going to take more time. Anything that's soft skills or, you know, communication skills, all of this, they take more time to acquire. They take practice. But again, it's invaluable. You know, as an employer, I can get a lot of accountants. I can get a lot of finance people. But will I get a good finance people who are going to be good with their team, who are going to, someone who's going to be good at leading the team, at giving feedback, at making connections with other departments? I doubt it. So that's what I've observed too when I was recruiting. It's good to get, it's very easy to get good technical specialists. You know, tons of people have masters these days. Technical skills is a very easy thing to get. You know, you can find qualified people very easily. Now, could I find someone who's going to be good with, again, you know, spearheading a team, communicating within the team, engaging with the team, being a good person to work with, just being someone that's easy to work with, that's very flexible to work with. A lot of people are set in their ways and they want to do it this way and that's it. So if you're this person who's flexible, and also the company can reassign you very easily without completely putting you off stage. So if you're this kind of a person, you're a learner by heart, you're easy, you're flexible, and you can learn quickly. This is a skill that's quite in demand from companies. So that's what you need to work on, is more your flexibility muscle, your networking muscle, and then you can get into job easier. Now, the second part of the question was, could you tell me some books or blogs to gain insights? Well, there's tons of them. I mean, if you go online, there's an ocean. And the first resource is YouTube. I mean, you type, communication or finance or, how to lead teams, and you already will find a lot free. I would say that's your biggest mentor is YouTube. I'm giving a lot of information on YouTube. So if you type in the search button, you just can find a lot of free information. If you type on Google, you will have also a lot of blogs, a lot of videos available. LinkedIn Learning has a lot also on short, learning pieces. You can do, if you have LinkedIn Learning, if you have the premium LinkedIn, you can get a lot of resources there on those different aspects. But again, you have so much for free already on YouTube, on online in general, and there's very good, I can't say really one person, because there's a lot of good people out there, thought leaders, I call them. Seth Godin is someone I really like for marketing, and I talked about it as well yesterday, for branding yourself and so forth. He's a great resource. So see also based on your special interests. Do you like more, do you want to get more into marketing? Do you want to get more into communication or management? There's different people that you can follow. But really, when you're interested in something, you will search it. And then when you start getting some information, then you will search more. So you get one video on YouTube, and then you will dig a bit more, and then you will click on links and get more things. So start with YouTube. Click in the search button what your interests are. They will present you featured videos, and then you will start clicking and get more information. And you will see if it makes sense to you, if it resonates with you. But yeah, you have a lot of things. It would be hard for me to say, okay, just follow this one person, because it depends on who's going to resonate with you. I mean, people, for example, in my channel, technically they resonate with what I say, but maybe some people wouldn't. So it's very, very personal choice. Who is going to touch you? Who's going to seem authentic to you, and so forth. So you just have to keep, looking out there. Who's a good thought leader, and who's someone that you view as a person that you want to follow, and everything. Okay, so let's see. I've got Suchoy Saha, who just joined, saying hello. Okay, we've got a question from Jan. I would like to know how much earn entry-level pharmacist. I'm in a pharmacy store in Basel. I think we talked already before. It just rings a bell, the whole pharmacy thing. If that makes any difference, I'm a foreigner. Also, you're trying to get a job as an entry-level pharmacist in Basel. I don't know the earnings. I don't know the salary bands. That's something that's very specific to each part of Switzerland, so I can't just pull it out of my head. But you just need to do some research online to find out, first of all, is there any need for that kind of job in the job boards? I'll post job boards below for both non-EU and international organization, private sector, so you can do research on job boards. That's your first step in your job search, is job boards. What's recruiting? What is the market saying? And then you say, okay, am I happy with that? Is that something I would be interested in? So check the market for pharmacists. Then you dig a bit more and you can type on Google salaries for pharmacists in Basel. I mean, I'm just using my logic there. You have the world at the tip of your fingers with Google. So everything is there. Everything you want to learn about, you want to know, it's all there. But it just takes sometimes a little bit of research and typing and using keywords. So the Swiss are not necessarily openly, and that's the case in most of Europe, it's very hard to get the salaries posted with the jobs. So you have to do a bit of research to see, you know, if there's some feedback, maybe on websites where people shared, you know, their salaries. And sometimes people put it on forums. So if you check Quora, for example, and you type pharmacy salary, maybe on Quora you can find some information. Maybe other expats mention something about it. So the way you find those kinds of, I would say, non so much public information is by looking at forums. But when you use Google and you type, you know, pharmacy salary and things like that, forums, then you might find people who talked to, at some point, who talked about that. So again, Quora, I know there's a website called Locals where there's a lot of people sharing also in forums. On the expat websites, people type in forums. So I will post those links below as a beginner search. But, you know, again, what I'm providing is a first level way to search for information. But then if you're really serious about your relocation to Switzerland, then you need to dig a bit deeper to actually do some research and spend some time, you know, trying different search keywords to find the information. Are you able to give me any advice where I can find about taxes that applies to people who live in Germany and work in Switzerland? Well, that's very personal. So, you know, again, it's not going to be a website where you find this information like boom, you know, and there's so many criteria that take into account with taxes, your status, you know, what kind of job, how long. I mean, that's why you have specialists. So I think your first worry should be to get a job or to look at the salary and then check a little bit about Switzerland lifestyle. See, you can do that by yourself. You don't need to have a website or a specialist yet. You know, you can do your own research to find out how much would the salary be, how much would the cost of living be, how much would the taxes be, so that you can find out easily also on the website to see, you know, the tax frames for Basel, for that part of Switzerland. And then you can make your own assessment of whether that's worth it for you or not. And, you know, if you would have the lifestyle that you want, knowing that there would probably be a commute, I assume, maybe double residency, but then you need to talk to you know, a specialist in expatriation, legal, or probably more finance based, you know, accounting based. So, but those people cost money. They're not going to give you free advice. So before you go and spend some money on someone, and they need numbers. So if you say, yeah, I want to relocate, and they're not going to be able to give you data. So that's why I say you need to do your own research on the website that I provide below after the call, after the chat. Try to do your own research, gather some information, and then you can come to a specialist, a legal specialist, or an accountant in Basel, and say, this is my project, these are the numbers, you know, can you give me more information on this or that? But again, I would say, if you don't have something concrete, the specialist will have a hard time giving concrete answers. So I think it's part of doing your own research and doing your own numbers to find out where is the base canton and all that. But you have definitely some finance specialists and accounting specialists, and maybe they charge you 1 hour of consulting. But again, I would come with something concrete, otherwise they can't really give you a lot of advice. Okay. Moisemi. Okay. Hello, Isabel. I'm from none but living in Letland, and I did my master's here recently. I don't know what Letland is. I got a call from one recruiter, and she said, we're interested in your profile, and she sent me the job description. Okay, I don't have a lot of information here. I'm having an assignment for a job in Brugg. Okay, great. The interview went smooth. So someone had a job interview with a Swiss company, startup, with 3 months unpaid. The startup wanted like 3 months unpaid, so I hope I do not face the same case. Well, yeah, you need to make sure they can. That's the thing in Switzerland. You have a lot of companies that are not really well funded. And I've had that happen with a lot of expats where they accept a job and then they don't get paid. So you want to also do your research on the company, just like they're doing research on you as a candidate. You want to do research on them. So check. So the message to this live stream is check the company, a little bit. Do they have a website? Do they have some mentions online about them? Where are they based? So do they seem like they have an actual sustained type of history? So if it's a startup that just opened, I would say, and you're relocating for them, I would say it's a little bit tricky because most startups, they need time to actually get the funding and be able to pay employees. So if you're relocating now, if you say, okay, I'm living down the street and I want to try, working for a startup, and if it doesn't work, I know I can get a job down the street tomorrow because I have a good profile, I would say you're not taking a big risk. Now, if you're going to relocate with all the amount of money that costs for a startup that's very iffy, I would say you're taking a big risk. So you want to assess a bit who's interviewing you, how long have they been in Switzerland, how big is the team, how long have they been working there. You need to understand a bit what you're getting into. And again, I'm warning everyone here, there's a lot of startups in Switzerland that cannot fund their employees. So you will be in that situation where they can't pay you. So again, make sure that you have a contract that's given to you with actual salary and something formal. You don't want to go with just, oh yeah, we're recruiting you, come tomorrow. You want something formal in writing, and check a little bit if it looks professional. I mean, do they have a header? Is it signed, and does it seem legit to you? So you have to do a bit of your checkpoints. But you do want something concrete with salary actually mentioned. And the thing is, to come to Switzerland, you need more than just a salary. You also need a bit more, you need to have them, maybe contribute to your pension. You want to make sure that, they offer something stable to you. So to relocate from the other side of the world and have something that's very unstable like this, I would say it's a big risk, again, that you're taking. So then you're left in the Swiss market. You don't have the money that's coming to pay for your bills and your rent and all that. It's a bit tricky. So only come to Switzerland if you have a good opportunity, just like any other country. You don't relocate to a country unless you have a great golden opportunity. They're giving you the red carpet. They're paying for your relocation. I always say, if you're going to come with a company that's relocating you. So if you work in a country and they have an opening in Switzerland, come via the company. You won't have to pay for a thing. They will take care of you. And usually it's big companies. Startups, to relocate to a country for a startup is a very, very risky adventure. Just like it's the same risk as coming to study in Switzerland, hoping to get the job after that. It's the same level of risk. And I would not advise it to someone unless maybe they're very young and they have nothing to lose, basically. But if you already have something going for yourself in your home country and you have a bit of savings aside and you're in good shape, I would say it's a huge risk to take. It's poker. That's what I would say. She said, I will conduct the interview. And I said, I'm from non-EU. She said, no problem, but you're living in an EU country with sponsors. So is it possible? Or should I look for a job in Germany? Well, it doesn't matter that you're living in an EU country. You still have a non-EU passport. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. Do they have maybe a contact within the authorities that will issue them the work permit easily? I don't know. You just have to take it further and see if they keep their word, because it's great to sell wind to people, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, come and we'll take care of everything. And then 6 months later, you're still waiting for your permit. You're still waiting for your salary. So again, you have to get a little bit more concrete engagement from them. Usually when you hire someone as an employer, you will give them a work contract where it states everything, including work permit situation. So if you don't have something in writing, go through the interview process and just say, I want something in writing, a contract. And if they're not able to issue this, then I would say don't go for it. Look for a job where you're based or somewhere else. But you can't come without a concrete a contract in writing signed by them, with a stamp, everything, because otherwise, yeah, you're just going to be working black market, which some companies don't have an issue with that, by the way. They don't care. They just have cheap resources who work black market, and they hope they don't get caught, and it's not a problem for them. So be careful, because in the end, you're the one who's putting yourself on the line, and by doing that. So Jan Pan is saying, thank you, very helpful. Okay. So I'm not sure how to pronounce your name because it's coming as weird characters on YouTube. So this new company is grounded on 1965. Well, how can it be a new company if if it was created in 1965? Then it's not a startup. It's not a startup at all. So, or maybe they have the home. Sometimes what happens in Switzerland, they have the umbrella company, and then they do startup projects. So they're a what do you call that? A spin-off of a company. So you have the big company, umbrella company, that's stable and that's funding, these startup projects. But then again, it's no guarantee, because whoever is heading the startup project might not be honest or reliable, what have you. So it's the same thing. So yeah, yeah, you have the interviews. It seems to be running smoothly. Just ask for the concrete stuff. You're not moving, you're not taking the job until you have concrete signed information. Until you have that in your hand, you're not doing anything. And you need to make that clear to them, that they need to produce a contract signed by the head of the company or HR, whoever is doing that work. And you're not doing anything until you have that. So put them in their responsibility. So it doesn't matter to say, yeah, I see this on the web and it's all fluffy. Everyone can say things on the web, but you need to get concrete engagement from them. No, you're not doing the assignment first and ask about the salary. That's not the case. That's not the way you do it. You want the work contract first signed, and then you start working. So a lot of companies will send you a lot of, especially they know that a lot of people want to come to Switzerland. There's lots of willing, able candidates that are more than happy to relocate, even without seeing a contract or 1 franc yet. But they know this, and they will play on this, and sometimes it's not really bad intentions, because in those startup projects, sometimes, yeah, they're waiting for funding. But for me, and it's all a way of working. I know I'm not going to hire a person until I know for sure I can fund that job and I have the money available. But some startups don't think that way. They think in the startup world, you launch things and then you hope that you get the funding to pay for things. But for me, I do it more. It's called the bootstrapping. So for people who are business owners or who are familiar with startups, they will understand. So bootstrapping is basically you start very small and you self-fund yourself. So you start earning a bit and then you have more, and then you start hiring somebody or working with a freelancer, which is what I do. I work with freelancers. I don't have a contract with them. I just pay them by the task. But some startups don't work that way. They just say, okay, I'm going to ask for a round of funding, and I know I will get this money at some point. So let me just, and sometimes you have to hire people because you can't, it's really a thing where you go around in circles. You can't grow the organization unless you have people. And you hope that you have the people and then you get the funding. But for me, it's a very dangerous zone for the employees, because what if the startup is not able to get these funds? And now with coronavirus, we're really in a shaky ground. So to actually go and say, yeah, I'll get the funding, that's risky until you have it signed. And that's the same with the startup. So it's like a trickle-down effect. The startup doesn't have a signed engagement with the funding. They start recruiting people that don't have a signed engagement from them. So you see how everyone works on promise and hope. So I don't work like that, but it's a risk you're taking to actually go and put yourself out there in a risky situation. So ask for guarantees. And that's the case in everything that you do in life. You want guarantees. You're not going to go and think and hope and trust. We're not in the Disney world out here. So a lot of people, and again, it's not necessarily they do it on purpose, but a lot of people are not good business managers at the big. That's where it starts. So they will do things that are a little bit weird. But if it's going to affect you, then it's a problem. Yeah, I'm not denying that it's an actual company. There's lots of it's very how could I say this? They're very well and able people, and very they might have very good purposes and well intent, but it's management. So in other words, if I was working for a company in human resources, I would definitely advise my CEO not to hire until they have the actual funding and until they can produce a work contract. But people who are entrepreneurs by heart and by trade, they don't think like that. They don't think, for them it's admin. It's like, yeah, let's get the resources and we'll think about it later. That's not the way it works in my world, but you have to be aware of that. That's how it works. That's how a lot of companies work. So they have this dream, they have this project, they start having a lot of people on board, and then they can pay them, and then everyone leaves with 6 months, 1 year without salary. And again, this is proof. This is something I've actually had feedback on. So I know it exists. I know it's very much the case in Switzerland. So be careful. No, you don't do a test. You don't do any type of work. You don't start producing any kind of work until you have a work contract. And if they have the good advice on their end, whether it's internal or external, there will be a piece in the contract that's called a trial session or a trial period. So in the contract, it will say, the trial period is 1 month or whatever it is that they decide to make it. And then if you pass this trial period, then you're going to be a full-time permanent employee, or you have a short-term contract, whatever. But you don't do the test like this, then how are you going to get sure? How are you going to be sure to get paid? So that's not a good process at all. For me, it doesn't sound right. So if a company is saying, we want to test you, just come to work, it's not professional. A professional company will issue a work contract and they will integrate a test period in the contract, which is normal. I think every contract should have a testing trial period, so to say, because you need to make sure the person is good for the job, and it's a good way of reassuring yourself. But to actually come, I mean, I could understand if it was a small shop, like a restaurant, for example, and there maybe it's a two people type of restaurant, or a small shop, and they say, yeah, they're selling flowers, and they say, oh, can you come and watch me and sell flowers, or serve in a restaurant for a couple of days to see how you're working. I would say, yeah, it's a small mom and pop shop. But for a company to actually do something like this, it doesn't sound very professional. I don't know what kind of contract they issued you. It doesn't seem very professional from the get-go, is my feel about it. The way they do it, and to ask about accommodation and signing documents on accommodation, that's not the point. The point is you need a work contract, simple as that. So I would say your experience with this organization doesn't seem legit, or doesn't seem very good to me. Now, again, if you have nothing going on at the moment and you want to try it, and maybe 5 days is not going to be worst case scenario, you just, if you're not getting the money after that, you can leave. Don't wait too long. Don't wait months without being paid, because then you still have to pay for food and the cost of living. So try it, see how it goes. Again, it depends on, it's the same thing when you make decision. Let's say you have nothing going on for you right now, things are not working, and you have this opportunity, so to say, and you look at what you can lose. Worst case scenario is you end up paying for your cost of living in Switzerland and never getting paid for this, it's an experience. Now, if you have a rent to pay for where you live and you have also other jobs, maybe possibilities, I would say, is it worth it? Question mark. So it's all about, I had a client who actually found an opportunity in Switzerland to work in a restaurant chain, and it worked out fine for her, and she was able to get into Switzerland with this opportunity and move from there. But my understanding is that she had something formal and put together and everything. So just make sure, again, you have your ducks in a row, that everything looks legit and you have a contract and it's signed and all these things. And again, this doesn't even guarantee, because people could give you a contract and never pay you anyways. They probably hope that, what are you going to do? Are you going to sue them? Are you going to go against the company as a non-Swiss resident or international employee? What credibility are the courts going to give you? So it's always, it's easy in a way for companies to use international employees, because they know for a fact that it's going to be hard for you to make your case and defend yourself. So they probably hope in a way that if things go wrong, that you're not going to do anything, and they probably get a few months of free work from you. So the better way, if you're looking to do your career in Switzerland, I would say a better and less risky way would be to sell your services online. So if you're a developer, for example, you set yourself up online via a platform, and I have a few that I will post below as well. And then you have to get paid because it's through a system. So if you do a project for a startup, they have to pay you. Otherwise, the project won't be finalized in the system. So they won't get the project and use it unless you get paid. So there's lots of websites. I work with freelancer.com. There's an app, Jobs Global. I will post below. That's more for the very junior, people who are just starting their career, but they offer also this, assignments, when you get paid for them and it's immediate. So I like this aspect more if you're trying to work with Switzerland, and you can have Swiss clients. And maybe after you work together online and they paid you and you have the relationship built, then maybe at some point they say, you know what, I've been working for this developer in such and such country, and you know what, I actually need a developer full-time now, so maybe I'll go and move it now to a full-time situation. So that's how you get your trial period in a very honest way, is that you work with someone online, you pay them, and it's actually cheaper, I think, for a company. They don't have to pay for accommodation and all that. So if I was advising this startup, probably I would say, what are you doing accommodating someone in Switzerland? You could just work with someone on the platform and they stay where they are. You don't have to pay for their accommodation and you just work online. Simple as that. So, and that's less risk for you, because if they don't pay you, again, they're not going to get the project. And I know with some website like freelancer.com, again, they give you usually a little sample, but the money won't be released until the person has fulfilled the job. So there's checkpoints on each side. I have to fund the project, so you can't start working until the project is funded, and you have to go and give your credit card. So they wouldn't be able to work with you until they fund the project. And then the money doesn't get released until you provide the work. So there's really check and balances on both ends. So there's very low risk to not get paid, basically. Very, very low risk. Unless you do a tremendous, horrible job. And then the person says, I can't accept this, it's really bad. And but again, you would have to explain why and so forth. So again, look at this option really. So for this streaming today, I would say the two insights and the two key points to remember from this 1 hour streaming is really focus on the international organizations as an international employee, because they have great benefits, great salaries. You won't have the work permit issue. You will be relocated and everything. So it's easier for you. Just make sure you have the right skill set. And again, I will post below the different links. But just focus on that. Don't even try with the private sector, because you end up with situations like this where they play with you. They will make you dream about a work permit, then you will come and not get it, and you will have a lot of those startup type of non very reliable type of people. But with international organizations, it's very firm, very concrete, very organized. Usually, I mean, if you work with the UN, there's no way of getting ripped off. Basically, I mean, it's very structured, and they will issue a contract, and you won't come until you have that contract. So check the international organization. And checkpoint number 2 and advice number 2 is if you want to really get your feet wet and work as a developer or something like that, maybe try it via online work first, unless you really have a serious organization in front of you and the project is funded, they issue a work contract, and you're pretty sure that it's a good company. And usually you would know, because a good company, usually they're known. So if you end up with contracts like Microsoft or Facebook or like big name companies, that there's no way you're going to be in a bad situation. But if it's a startup and there's no real history about them, or the project, you're not sure it's funded, then you're taking a huge risk. So that's my 2 cents. Oh, Andre just joined. So hi, Andre. Nice to see you or hear from you. Happy New Year to you. I know Andre, by the way. So it's always nice to see returning people that you know well. You should definitely ask beforehand for a payment if they want you to work for 5 entire days. And by the way, Andre is a developer, so he would know, and he works in Switzerland. This is unheard of for a developer interview and should definitely be a red flag for you. Thank you, Andre, for giving your input on this, because there's going to be abuse, especially now with crisis and everything. Again, people will abuse the fact that they will use the fact that some people are in need and need some money, and they will make them dream about Switzerland and having a job there. So there will be abuse. And when you have, especially if you don't have a lot going for yourself, and you think, okay, I want to work in Switzerland, and they know this. They know that you're a bit desperate, so to say, so they will play with you on that. So that's why you need to keep your brain together, even though you might be really dreaming of coming to Switzerland. You have to keep your brain a bit, your rationality. Just like Andre is saying, don't get too overly excited. Get your rationality in order. Are you getting the payment? Check red flags. Employers can sometimes get greedy with people that need only a working permit and visa. Exactly. They know this. They know that if they didn't go in front of you, work permit, Switzerland, people will run. They know this. So you have to be careful, because there will be abuse. So just my 2 cents. Well, it goes in the same direction as I was saying. I think it's all about putting good practices for yourself in order, the checkpoints again, and paying attention to red flags, just like you would in any kind of relationship, whether it's work or personal. Just take the time to observe. Is the person keeping their words? Are they providing the information they're supposed to provide, or are they slackers a little bit? And again, don't let your dream to come to Switzerland overpower your rationality and your common sense. If you don't have, again, you have to be very, very concrete about this. If you don't have all the documents signed and in order, it's going to be a huge risk. So I've got Marco here. If I study for a master's degree in finance in Zurich instead of doing it in my university here in Italy, it would be remarkably easier to get bank internship in Zurich. Yeah, you have to check if you can. I would say it's the same thing if you can afford it, because it would probably not be the same cost to do a master in Zurich rather than in Italy. But as an EU citizen, probably it won't be as difficult for you to get a job. And it could be great on your resume too, to have a Swiss university on your resume. And there's lots of good schools in Switzerland. So I would say finance degree for finance degree, you may as well do it in a place where you want to be maybe afterwards. And as a student, I think you have a little bit of time also afterwards to look for your internship. I would say start networking from day one when you start your school, so that you can prepare for after your degree to have an internship. So don't wait until the last minute. Start your school, start networking there and then, expanding your skills as well. What I was saying a little bit earlier, when someone asked me about the skills to get in 2021. So it become a finance plus plus, meaning that you're a finance student, but you're also maybe starting your own group, maybe doing something interesting on the side. You want to become this interesting resource, so that when you go to the interviews and you're competing with other people, it will be easier for a company to say yes to you if you're bringing a lot to the table, a lot more than the other candidates. So if you're a very eager, motivated Italian in Zurich, and you have done a lot during your years in school, not just study the regular courses that are asked of you, but you also did a lot. Maybe you started a project inside the school, or same thing. I think in schools you can do a lot of small networking and groups and things like that, and maybe really understand the local Zurich market, so you can really position yourself to get this internship. So become very, very curious. Understand, what are the companies you could work for after that in banking. Understand their needs so that you can prepare during those 3 years or 4 years, depending how long you study, to focus on what the banks need, so that when you graduate, you have a very good proposal for them, so that they have to say yes to you, basically, because you're so great. It's going to be very easy for you to figure out, because when you have when you inquire with the Swiss schools, they will give you a number, which is the amount for your studies, and the amount for you also have the cost of living to take into account. So it's going to be a very easy decision. I think, again, as a student, usually parents pay for these things, because as a student you don't have a lot of income to pay, especially for a Swiss degree. I think if you're a student in Switzerland, usually the parents would be paying for it. I doubt that a student could be able to fund. We're talking about dozens of Swiss francs, so it's going to be hard. But if you're more on the self-funding type of thing and all that, I would say probably the Italian degree. But you can still make yourself a great potential for a company in general. So in terms of finance, if you don't have a rich family around you to pay for your studies, probably it makes more sense to study abroad, but get prepared for the Swiss market by really understanding what they need, and maybe trying to do some trips regularly. In Italy, you're not very far. If you do regular trips and you understand the culture and what is needed in the job boards by looking at the jobs, then you can cater your application when you graduate to be hired as an intern. So that's a lower cost, probably not as effective as being right there and then, but then again, based on your amounts that you can provide. And very few people, students, can afford, again, the Swiss schools unless the family pays for it, which makes sense. At 20-some-year-old, very few people can self-study, self-support studies in Switzerland. So, okay, any more questions? I think it was a good chat, very lively, lots of questions. So I will post all the links. I've talked about a few things, job boards, research, job sites, research forums, and all that. I will post all that below so that you can start your own research and start there, to find out if it's worth it for you. Again, look at the market. That's really where it starts before you invest anything, because if you go for yet another useless degree, it's not going to help you. I see too many people overly focused on getting degrees, but if it's not relevant to the moment, the flavor of the moment, it's just going to be another degree. So rather focus on specific skills building. And as we said last night in the group, sometimes just an online course could be great to focus on just one skill and the practice of the skill. So for those communication, delegation, management, all that, you learn by doing. So, it's going to be practicing in your projects, those skills, so that you can say, yeah, I've started a group and I grew it by 100%, and and it's in Switzerland and so forth, or I negotiated this thing, and this is what I was able to get, and it's showing a little bit what you can do. This was the conversation we had yesterday in the private club with an expert who came, and she explained how she was able to each time grow her career a little bit further by adding skills here and there, and picking up a few different things. And then she was coming with a great proposal to her future employer. It's like, yeah, I work there, and I caught up on this and that. And then you come up with a value proposition that's really well put together and attractive, because you become the plus plus person. So you're not just an HR person, but you're an HR person with, you've done some online training, and you've built courses and so forth. So you become this extra person. So think more about short, relevant, useful education and practice of the skill, rather than education in general and degrees. I think in 2021, you really have to question, when you think about studies, is this really going to help me get the job that I want, that I've seen on the job boards? Or am I better off, and a lot of it is self-teaching as well, especially in tech. And I've had several professionals who came and talked on my different channels and really insisted on the fact that it's all about you learning how to do the different things that you need to do to become an efficient person. So, just teach yourself. Basically, you can teach yourself a lot of things now by looking a little bit at the resources on the web for free. Sometimes there's even great courses that are available for free. Yesterday, I shared the book audio version of The Purple Cow. It was available via SoundCloud, I think, all free. If you do a bit of search, you can find lots of resources, and not necessarily go through the very standard bachelor, master, PhD. I think this could have some relevance if you're targeting big consulting firms, big organizations. And again, I've also published some entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, who openly says, I don't care about your degree. And I've posted this before in YouTube. So, and you will hear more and more of that now, where recruiters will say, we don't care about your degree. We don't care about the school you went to. We want to know what you can do for us and what are your skills. So I'll close with this statement. I think it will be food for thought for you. Do you really need a degree? So I hope you do well. I will keep doing these live streamings because I think they have their value, and probably the next one will be maybe end of January, in the next couple of weeks. It depends how many comments I get. If I get a lot of comments, I think it's worth just doing live streaming for me, because I have a lot to talk about. So it's always great. So again, if I see those comments, I will go online regularly. So have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Rest well, and I will talk to you soon.